GHK G5 is pretty much GHK's take on the Evo. And in today's video, I will cover quite literally every single thing regarding this platform that you need to know. Everything from its completely polymer construction, its gas efficiency, we'll take it down, put it back together, and of course any problems that might occur when you pick up your G5 and simple ways and solutions that you can solve them. There's a few things that we need to keep in mind here, like the fact that we are in the center of a blizzard running 30 degrees Fahrenheit. To make sure everything's fair, I need you to know that I picked this thing up aftermarket with a couple of mags for a solid deal. Things like this cheap red dot, this funky foregrip, and then of course the shush can in the front are all aftermarket. And to go even further, sitting on the inside of the shush can showcases an extremely long aftermarket maple leaf inner barrel that's going to increase the accuracy and power, so that's not true to purchase after you pick it up either. Now, when it comes to the G5, the entire construction of this thing is polymer. Everything from the grip, the lower receiver, the stock extension, the upper receiver, the rails. It's a giant hunk of plastic. As we start from the back, the stock is one giant chunk of plastic having a small handle at the bottom plate where you can extend it into 4 different adjustment positions just by pulling that lever like a trigger. In front of that is a button that latches on the left side and then folds over to the right and then latches at the small ejection port latch right behind the ejection port. Just pry it down, snap it back, and I do want to say it's rock solid. And when you pull it out, there's minimal to no rattle either. When it folds over too, it's tight. The thing with polymer is tolerances can be a little bit more wobbly because things bend and twist. Now I don't know, so don't quote me on this, but the grip is also polymer and it does look like it should be able to take any real steel or AR/M4 aftermarket grips, so that's kind of cool. All your bells and whistles and your user interface are all ambidextrous, so keep that in mind. You have your fire selector switch that goes into safe, clicks into place for semi, and then fun mode. And again, like I said, those are ambidextrous. And then your magazine release on the left side and on the right side in case you want to use your thumb or your index finger to remove the mag. Something else to note if you want to is the mag well is actually slightly flared. You could see like the beveling edge, so that helps index those mags a little bit better. I mentioned with rail space, the G5 does not lack. We have a ton of space up on the top, the bottom, some on the left, and some on the right. It does come with a pair of irons. The rear are windage adjustable, and then the front sight, if I can get that guy up, sinks just in front of the rail, and in fact is elevation adjustable, and they snap open and closed. And when we take the mag out, the charging handle is where things start to look a little bit reminiscent of like an MP5. It does fold and lock into place, and then you can HK slap it, which is awesome. Your mock ejection port is on this side, so whenever you pull that charging handle back, the bolt will open and you'll see your nozzle and your hop-up unit. And did I mention the outer barrel comes threaded with a 14mm counterclockwise thread on the front. I also want to note that due to its polymer construction, this thing weighs close to nothing. It is extremely light, and you will not get tired using this. It's lighter than some of the sidearms I own. Now, a couple key features are its ambidextrous sling attachment points just in front of the stock that are actually molded into the upper receiver. The trigger, which when on semi, has a little bit of wiggle with no noticeable break. It kind of just drops the hammer. And your reset is kind of mushy with a ton of extra room. I mean, for a cheap replica that's completely made of polymer, I guess you can't really expect the most high quality trigger, but I'm not necessarily like a trigger slob myself. Some people won't like this. I don't know if you could see it, we'll dive into it a little bit deeper soon, but there's a guide rod and a spring on the left side, and there's no guide rod and spring on the right side. That's because you can actually move both of those plus the charging handle over to the opposing side in case you like to shoot wrongy. I hate to say it, but the hop-up dial is really not the easiest to get access to. You could see it's a small wheel over there, and that's really the only way that you can access it. So you're gonna need some sort of a tool to reach in there and I guess crank that dial over. It'd be nice if it was TDC, but it's not. This video we are running the T238 speed loader, and it's absolutely loaded to the brim with 0.25 gram BBs. For our power, we got some Lancer Tactical high pressure gas, and this is basically equivalent to red gas. It is a completely new bottle, so you know that everything is authentic, and we're giving this thing the best shot that we can. And we need this high pressure gas because of how cold it is. This is going to kind of help even us out a tad bit, hopefully. Here are the mags, by the way, the G5 mags. They come in tan and black. It's a big polymer case with a polymer base. We have what looks to be some sort of like I think it's pot metal or aluminum plate on the top, and then some plastic feed lips with a really thick follower. You can't see the BBs, which is good. It'll help keep those from getting dirty. You can see on the back you have your release valve. Just below that's your fill valve. Thick gas router. And then this is your stop on empty. So obviously I want to see if this thing works with a T238 speed loader. I'm just going to see that we could set it up to infinite. I'm going to start getting the BBs rolling out. Okay. And now we know all the BBs are up at the top. And let's see if it, A, will be able to load through these thick feed lips, and B, how many BBs we do load. So we're going to check the number on the left. Pop this down. Oh, fighting me a little bit? Of course we are. We got none in there right now. Maybe like an angle thing. There we go. Oh no, oh god. I really don't like when that happens, and it's not T238's fault. Most of the time it has to do with the mags. I do have another mag here, and it should be empty. We'll try it with this one, see if I can keep it on in place here. Let's try it now. Oh my, bro. Is it T238 speed loader? What the heck is causing that? There we go. All right, so it looks like we have around 37 BBs. I guess next we want to see if it's a single or a two-stage valve. Just go ahead and fill this guy up. Looks to be a single stage, no liquid gas, or I'm sorry, gas is pouring out. The liquid gas and the vapor gas are staying in. And that should be completely full. So I'm just going to lock the bolt back. I'm going to take the mag, and I filled it with BBs and gas, and I want to see how many full BB fills on a mag we can get out of a single gas fill. So we'll go ahead and drop this guy in. HK, slap it. What? Oh, no. That's it. The bolt handle completely snapped. Where'd it go? Oh, I found it. Hold on. Check this out. Let's see where it snapped. Busted completely off. I'm gonna have to contact Roadworks.
2 weeks later.
It's been a short time coming now, but we are back, baby. And for the remainder of this video, just remember, rest in peace to the stock charging handle, the G5, because this guy retired early and just didn't want to finish his job. I gotta say, I didn't expect that before we finished this video, we'd be throwing on our first aftermarket upgrade. And if you haven't seen the video yet, we tossed on the brand new CNC charging handle from Roadworks. There were some challenges during that I want to express to you at the end of the video, but for now, our priority is finishing our test. Throw this guy into semi. And today, everything's really slushy, kind of gross all over the place, but it is a whopping 40 degrees Fahrenheit, so keep that in mind now. Same rules, same gas, same BBs, and let's see how many rounds we can put down range. I don't know if you can hear that. There's a lot of tinging going on, like you could hear the recoil spring. The trigger's actually pretty nice. It's very smooth, but like there's a noticeable reset that I actually like a lot more than when I was just pulling it prior to actually having gas in the mag. The recoil, there's really not a whole lot. Weirdly enough, for some reason, a majority of the recoil you feel up in the handguard, and it kind of just feels like the front is rattling up and down, not so much like the bolt is flying backwards, and I really don't understand how they're making it do that. But the bolt did lock back, and we emptied that mag. Let's fill it again. Keep in mind we're rocking on the same gas fill here. Second mag. So repetitive shots back to back to back to back to back are not a problem, and you can definitely feel that small space where you'd have to keep the trigger in order to keep those shots quick. And we locked back successfully. Not too bad, guys. Let's do it again. Round 3. Third mag on lockback? 40 degrees Fahrenheit? All right, GHK. Take your guesses in the comments below. Are we finishing a 4th mag? I don't think so. Oh, getting a little sluggish now. BBs are still flying pretty far. They're starting to drop. And we're not locking back, but the BBs are out of the mag. I don't know. The power's getting pretty low. I'm going to say we're at like 4 mags. If we had a cooldown, those might have finished completely. It's everybody's favorite time, the fun switch. We got a brand new mag. It's been resting the entire time inside, and a brand new fill of BBs. Let's block this back first. What happened? We got a little jam there. 2 BBs flew out. Let's try that again. All right, fun mode. Please empty a full mag. I don't see why I wouldn't be able to. We cycled through 4 mags on the semi. Uh-oh. Something up with that mag? Yeah, we just... Oh, brother. I don't know if you could see that. I think it's just letting BBs out too easily. Because our feed lips are cracked. Yeah, that's probably the problem. Ooh. Okay, let me let the other mag cool down, and then we'll test it with that one. So this mag's had a little cooldown time now. About 5 minutes or so. And let's hope that's not the problem again. Again, it just was jamming because the BBs were like flooding out of the feed lips. Here we go. Maybe not enough cooldown time. Super weird. We did finish the mag though. Should I load it with some more BBs? This is that same gas feel here, and honestly, I think it's just kind of behaving as if it's like overgassed, or if the mag is just still a little too cold. I don't know. Let's see if it's an overgas problem. If it was, it should work just fine now. Yeah, it did. Yeah, I think it's just an overgas problem. We got another full mag of BBs, same gas fill. This is the 3rd mag now. And again, like I always say, you should never be overgassing your mags. 7 to 8 seconds is kind of the gold standard. I just do this for the absolute amount of like gas efficiency we can get out of this thing, and just really to push the limits. And sometimes that doesn't pay off so great. Here we go. Little stutter. Empty the BBs. The bolt did not lock back. So I'll call it like 2.5, 3 mags. We're just about ready to chrono. We got it set up for our .25s and a newly gassed mag. And keep in mind that the power on this is going to be a little bit different than what it would be out of the box. Primarily because the bucking and the inner barrel on this thing are no longer stock. There is a longer inner barrel, which is going to drastically increase our FPS and our joule output. Anyways, let's throw a handful of shots down into the chrono and see what kind of power we are dealing with. I'll go ahead and read out all of the ratings as well as we go. We're looking at 265.5 FPS at 0.82 joules, 262.2 FPS at 0.8 joules, 260 FPS at 0.79 joules, 258 FPS at 0.77 joules, 257 FPS at 0.77 joules, 242 FPS at 0.68 joules, 259.6 FPS at 0.78 joules, 257 FPS at 0.77 joules, 255 FPS at 0.75 joules, 251 FPS at at 0.73 joules, and I'll go for our last one. And that is 251.4 FPS at 0.73 joules. I gotta say, for FPS consistency wise, for a lower budget GBB, it's honestly pretty solid, and it's sitting with a maybe not. I'm sorry. It's got some large gaps, but for the most part, it's pretty dang close. And then it drops for some reason, and I wonder if that has to do with me or just with the colder weather. But again, it's low power, so you'll have no problems with this indoor, even with that longer inner barrel. So that's just something to keep in mind. Regularly, for a large portion of these review videos, now we'd go into the part where I field test it and I just abuse the crud out of these things. We're talking run different drills, fire it as many times as I can, and just see what it can handle. Now, due to the inevitability of a part on the inside of this thing breaking, which we're going to talk about at the end of the video after we tear it down and put it back together, I'm going to avoid that because I want to make sure that that doesn't happen, because as soon as it does, there's no going back. Let's take apart the GHK G5. Pop the can off, exposing the 14mm counterclockwise thread on the front of the GHK G5. Yours will not have an inner barrel like this. This one is the aftermarket one. The front sight you won't have, but we'll take it off. Just 2 screws. Same for that weird little dinky grip at the base. You won't have that, but I'll pop it off nonetheless. We're just going to now unfold the stock. We got to press this pin out here. Now, something to keep in mind is that pin is going to stay in place. It actually locks on the inside of the receiver. That allows you to pop the upper and lower receiver apart, therefore exposing your spring, guide rod, bolt, and nozzle. For some weird reason, the second pin is a 2-way, so you have to unscrew this flathead first. And using something pretty thick to punch it out the opposite side is probably best. Just be careful not to strip the inside thread. Just like that, the receiver's split in your upper and lower. You can see the lower receiver, the magwell, the area where the first pin goes in, your entire FCU and that large hammer, your selector switches, internals, the pin, and the small backplate that I was talking about that might inevitably break if I fire it too much without a mod. We'll talk about that a little later. This is as far as I'm going to take this part down. Let's move into the upper. I also forgot to mention, a majority of these things are not steel. A lot of them seem like some sort of aluminum or pot metal. The contact points are rather large, so I don't think you're going to have much of a problem inside this area specifically, like the fire control unit stuff. The polymer is a different story. The upper is now a big hollow polymer cavity with a setting of the hop-up unit, the guide rod, the spring, the charging handle, the inner barrel, and bucking. In order to get those things out and split the upper receiver into the front and rear parts, what we're going to have to do is attack these settings of 2 screws on the left and the 2 screws on the right. Just keep in mind that you're going to want something with a little bit of leverage, because these are usually in there pretty tight. And with those screws removed, now just flip up the front sight and push from behind it, and the upper will now split into the front half and the back half. Just be careful your charging handle doesn't get stuck. Take a look. This is what controls your accuracy, this entire unit. Your hop-up unit, which is all fixed in place via this dial, and this dial is going to allow you to increase or decrease hop. It is not using a bearing, it is simply just a friction-fitted dial. The hop-up unit can be removed with this pin. We did that in the previous video when we installed the new charging handle. In order to get the charging handle, guide rod, and spring out, what you're going to have to do is remove this guy. The whole hop-up unit pops off, and then you can go ahead and pull the guide rod and spring out and take the charging handle off. We pop these 2 pins out. Like I said, that's in the previous video. During that time as well with the hop unit, your barrel will slide out of the outer barrel. And that's the takedown. Just to wrap these things up, we're going to take a look at the bolt carrier group as well as the guide rod and buffer. Your spring and guide rod function, where the guide rod will connect up into the upper receiver and it will be stabilized by the buffer on the back. The buffer has a small little rubber ball in the rear to help cushion the blow on the lower receiver, which doesn't actually really help all that much. The bolt carrier is extremely large, and it's dense, like heavy dense. It is not steel, some sort of aluminum. And then the nozzle is large, sturdy. The part that pulls the BBs out of the mags is also pretty thick, so that's good to see. And obviously it's under spring tension, which is good to see because a lot of, like some of the AK variants that GHK makes, the nozzles actually aren't under spring tension. And it glides nice and smooth. Now, I am a man of respect, which is exactly why I'm going to talk about the pros just before I teach you about all the inevitable cons. The construction, it's solid. She don't wiggle, she don't waddle, she don't rattle. Gas-wise, it's efficient. It can get through a slew of mags, it functions just fine on fun mode. No complaints there. Design-wise, this thing is literally the epitome of the Evo we have at home. So for the short while that I've actually got to have my hands on this thing, being that it is like the Evo we have at home, it's very ergonomical, and it feels comfortable. And now it's time to feel my wrath. AHK slapped it and the charging handle snapped. Both mags now have cracked feed lips, and very quickly I realized that the black one will no longer hold BBs when I put it in, and they spew out causing jams, and the green one is not too far off. I installed the brand new charging handle and the small nub on the left side that stops it from falling forwards when you do HK slap it, also cracked. You can see that small little nub on this side. Still locks back though, but grounds for concern. It hasn't happened to me yet, and this is the reason that I told you before I was not going to start plinking it around and abusing it, because the receiver is also prone to crack. I'll try and throw a photo on screen if I remember. You see, I've seen a good handful of people in the heavy recoil Discord doing a modification to the rear of the lower receiver and filling this guy up with epoxy, because if you don't, the bolt is so heavy it starts to abuse the crud out of this thing and cause the lower receiver to crack, which at that point, you're toast. And it doesn't make a whole lot of sense that the only thing that GHK decided to do was put a small little rubber pellet on the back to help cushion the blow. Because clearly with the weight of this guy, the thickness of this guy, just filling this in might have helped, but still, the design is just, it feels like it's doomed to fail. And that does not mean we're out of options. There's a slew of replacement feed lips available on the market. I was able to completely reinstall the charging handle using some parts from Rogueworks, and Rogueworks, which we are going to do in a future video, like I said a couple times, sent me a device that's going to help us keep the lower receiver from cracking, and it will install that next. Wrapping things up, I do want to say I always like to give companies the benefit of the doubt, because creating things like this from the ground up is not an easy feat. However, being some of these issues occur within the first 10 mags I put through this thing, it really has me feeling like they didn't try and test its durability at all, and instead just saw that it shot BBs and were like, that's great, sell it. I do want to remind you what GHK was going for is an affordable replica that wasn't expensive, that most people can get and worked. Now I know these aren't available anymore on the market, but when they were originally, I believe they were cheap, and then they got really expensive with things price increased, and they almost doubled, and now, let's consider all the extra parts that I had to pick up in order to make this thing work. Those are pretty expensive too. This becomes just as expensive as any replica on the market. And I get that it's Airsoft, but if I see another company make a replica that is HK slappable, but out of plastic parts, I'm going to be freaking infuriated. I will pay the extra $20 to $50 if you just make this metal out of the box. GHK's had its ups and downs. I like GHK. I think overall they did a decent job. There's a few things that I would change, but I'll see you in the next adventure. Thanks for hanging with G5 and I. Stay tuned for the next upgrade that'll be out within the week. I'll see you in the next adventure. Peace.